I am going to be smoking up a pork butt, but I'm not stopping with just that, because we're going to be taking that, making pulled pork, and putting that on a piece of Texas toast. So here I've got a 7.5 pound bone-in pork butt. It's trimmed up as much as I need it trimmed up. I don't need to do anything else. And we're going to be putting this out on the pit barrel cooker tomorrow. But tonight I want to get it rubbed up, and I'm going to be using a rub that I've used before. It's called Adkins BBQ Rub. It was really good, and it's going to be great on this pork butt. So let's get it rubbed up. Get a good generous coating on here. Edges, ends. Get our fat side rubbed up. Sure we get this end here. All right, that's looking good to me. This is gonna go in a Ziploc bag overnight in the refrigerator, and I'll see you tomorrow out at the pit barrel cooker. All right, the PBC's going with a hunk of cherry wood on there. Let's get our pork butt on. Go ahead and get my internal temperature probe in. That's showing 37 degrees, which is perfect because this came straight out of the refrigerator. Let's get our hanging rods in. They are part of the venting system. And let's get our lid on and get smoking. It's a bit of a gray, rainy day here, so it's gonna be cooler. That'll probably affect the cook just slightly, more so with the humidity. Now the pit barrel cooker generally runs at about 275 to 300 degrees when you have your lower vent set in the proper position for your elevation. For me, that's about a quarter of the way open. This pork butt today, we're gonna take it to a state of tenderness. Ultimately, that's probably gonna be somewhere between 195 and 205. But somewhere around 160, when we get to the stall range, we are gonna wrap it. At least that's my plan right now. And because of the humidity and the moisture in the air, I doubt I'm gonna have to spritz it, but I'll check it, and if I do spritz it, I'll bring you back for that. And if there's no spritzing, I'll see you back here when it's time to wrap this. All right, we've been going for just over 4 hours, and we have stalled out at about 155 degrees internal. So it's time to wrap this pork butt. Oh, that smells good. Oh man. Still have moisture on the surface there. And usually I put these fat side down, but I didn't this time. I put it fat side up. All right, let's go ahead and get this off here and wrapped up. Get the lid back on to keep the temperature from rising too much with all the oxygen pouring in. Now the way the surface looks, I'm not going to add any more moisture. Looks terrific to me. I'm just going to wrap it up. Just like that, let's get it back on the pit barrel cooker. See if we can get our probe back into a similar temperature. That's showing 152 right there, so I'm happy with that. Let's get our lid on, keep cooking. So I'll see you back here when we get to that tenderness range and we see how close we are to being done. So, we're not out at the pit barrel cooker. Change of plans. Sideways rain came in and I just couldn't get the cameras out there, so I had to call an audible, and here we are. This has been sitting and resting for 2 hours. It was in the paper and that was wrapped in foil in a foil pan, so it's as done as it's gonna be. We were at about a 200 degrees internal when I probed it out there in the rain, and it was very tender. And the cook time was right on 8 hours. So it took just a little longer than I expected, and I think that was just because of conditions. It was colder, high humidity today with all that rain and the wind. So but it's looking good and gotta pull this, so let's do it. Let's get our bone out of here first. That's looking good. Came out fairly clean there. Now, one thing I want to let you know is I'm not actually going to use this tonight to make the finished product with that Texas toast. It's going to have to be tomorrow because it's just too late today with the delays and everything that went on. So we're going to get this pulled. It's going to go in the refrigerator, and then we're going to reheat it up tomorrow with the juice that's left from it in the foil pan, and it's going to be great. So let's just get in here and pull. Still hot. Probably should have had my insulators on, but we'll survive. Oop, piece flew out. I'm gonna taste that one. Oh, that's good. That is good. Now, some of these are really hot, and I just don't want to switch out of my gloves into the insulators, so I just grabbed a couple forks here, and we're gonna pull that way. Just get the rest of these shredded up a bit. There's that fatty side on the bottom, which is really tasty. Yeah, I ended up doing this fat side up, which I usually don't do, and that happened because I just wasn't paying attention when I put it on the pit. So it is what it is. I'm sure it's going to be fine, and I know a lot of people do it fat side up anyway. I just prefer fat side down. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish shredding this. Then it's going to go in the refrigerator. We're going to save that liquid gold juice that came off of this, and tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make up that Texas toast, top it with this, some great coleslaw we're going to make, and a nice barbecue sauce that I'm going to try. So I'll see you tomorrow. All right, I am back. It's the next morning after that little bit of a mix-up with the cook last night. It just took longer and lots of stuff was going on, but that happens sometimes when you're grilling, smoking, cooking stuff. You have to sort of adapt. So pulled the pork, went in the refrigerator. We're going to continue this morning, and we're going to start with making our coleslaw. And the first thing we've got to do is get that coleslaw dressing ready. And we're starting with a little over 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise, maybe 2.5. If you're a Miracle Whip person, you can use that. Use whatever you like. To this, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, about a teaspoon of mustard. I'm using sort of a brown mustard. I'm going to add a tablespoon of honey. And again, these are sort of rough measurements. You can really play around with this in this sort of dressing. I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of pepper. And that's sort of a very fine cracked black pepper. 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. I'm also gonna add just a shake of that Atkins BBQ Rub here. I mean, that was maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. Wanna give this a good mix before we get in our cabbage and scallions. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually add a little bit of barbecue sauce to this. I've done that before and it's great. Maybe a tablespoon. Now, I don't like my coleslaw really soupy, so this is just the amount that I like. You can make more, make yours soupier, however you like it. Now I'm gonna add my cabbage. This is a mix of green cabbage and red cabbage. It's about 1/2 of a head of green cabbage and 1/2 of a head of red cabbage, sliced up, chopped up, and they're fairly small heads. They're not huge. And we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of chopped scallions. That might have been more like a, I don't know, 1/2 cup. Just wanna get in here, get everybody mixed, get that dressing distributed. I just want enough to coat each piece. It doesn't need to be thick and soupy, as I said. That's looking good. Just good coverage. I can just see it on all the pieces here. And like for me, when I look and I pull back the center there, there's not like a big pool in the center just sitting there. Let's just give this a quick taste. That's just what I'm looking for. Let's move on to getting our Texas toast ready. So I have this nice loaf of brioche bread. You can really use any sort of loaf you like. And for Texas toast, you really want thicker cuts. You can use just a regular slice of bread if you have to, but if you can get a whole loaf that's uncut, this is really good to use. And pick your favorite bread. It doesn't have to be any specific kind. I just chose this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get ourselves to the middle here. We're gonna cut a couple nice thick slices. Just like that. We're gonna get our slices on a bigger plate here so we can butter them up. So what I'm buttering them with is a mixture of 4 tablespoons of softened butter and 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. Just gonna kind of get a nice little spread on here. Turn these over. Get the opposite side. Probably should have softened the butter just a bit more with this brioche. It's a little delicate, but it'll be okay. All right, this is looking good. Let's get over to our cast iron pan and toast this up. All right, our pan is nice and hot. I'm gonna go ahead and toast up these pieces of Texas toast one at a time. All right, let's go ahead and see how we're doing here. Ah, that's looking good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish toasting this up, and then we will move on to reheating our pulled pork. So I've turned my burner down to low, medium low, so we're not up at that higher heat for making that toast, and we're gonna get some pulled pork in here. Now, if you remember, I mentioned saving that liquid gold, any of the juice that drains off when you unwrap the pulled pork the first time. I didn't have that on camera, but I did save it, and I'm gonna put, I don't know, a tablespoon or so in there right now. It's sort of gelatinized. Skim the fat off. We're gonna get that in there. That is flavor. You just put that in the refrigerator, the fat comes to the top, you scrape it off after it's cool. Use that stuff. Great flavor to add back into your pulled pork and anything else really. And we're not trying to crisp this up like you might for carnitas or anything. I'm just trying to rewarm it here. All right, so I'm gonna put the lid on this for maybe a couple minutes just to get it to rewarm. And I'll bring you back when we're building our pulled pork Texas toast. All right, I have my piece of Texas toast right here, ready to go. And I'm gonna do this a little bit backwards, what you might think with the pulled pork. I'm actually gonna put the coleslaw on the bottom because I want that pulled pork on top. So we're gonna put a little bit of our slaw down here. And if some of it falls off, no big deal. Next, pulled pork. Remember, this is sort of an open-faced sandwich. We're gonna be eating this with a fork. Some of those barky bits on here. I was really happy with the bark on this pork butt, have to tell you. Finally, for sauce, I'm gonna be using a barbecue sauce from Mad Moose Barbecue. They sent this to me to try, and I really like it. So we're gonna use it on this pulled pork Texas toast. I guess this is sort of the carnivore equivalent of avocado toast. I'm not hating on avocado toast. I like avocado toast, but how can you look at this and not like this too? That's looking good. I'm hungry. It's time to taste. And I'm just diving in here. Let's carve off a piece. I've actually been waiting for this for more than 24 hours, so this is gonna taste good, I hope. Let's see. That is really, really good. I just like this idea of not having to worry about a bun that you're gonna pick up and doing this open-faced. And I gotta say, that barbecue sauce is awesome on this. So Mad Moose Barbecue, thank you for sending that to me. I'll put a link down in the video description for anyone who wants to check them out, but man, this is good. The coleslaw is that nice little bite of freshness in there. Good flavor on it, and I'm really glad that I put it below the pork on the toast because that pork on top just tastes so good, especially with that barbecue sauce. I'm not saying that the coleslaw would have hidden all of that, but it's right there, front and center. So sometimes when you're cooking, you get thrown a curveball, you got to adapt. If you're smoking something, grilling something, you may just have to extend the time that you're going to serve it, give yourself a chance to reheat it the next day, and enjoy it. Don't rush yourself. And I'm really glad I didn't rush myself here.